myself, it's Graeme, Garner. I'd like to thank the inquiry and you, Glenn, for inviting me here to give my point of view on behalf of my family and other people I know in the industry who are of the same opinion in regard to concerns about where it's going.
Tremendous. Thanks, Graeme, and thank you for reaching out to us. Appreciate that. Now, I do know, and there are some documents that you don't want for distribution, maybe? Yep, that's fine. So, as you know, you have the ability, if you want to go, if you need to tell the committee more in depth, you have the ability to go into camera. But I will say that sometimes we have the right to, or we have the ability to use that information should we need it. So with your comments, you put them to me as wide-ranging as you like.
Yep.
And if I start to answer or ask a question that may go to identifying who we may be talking about, you can say, Glenn, I don't want to go down. I don't want to put you in a position.
No.
How's that? So Graeme, the floor is yours, mate. Let's give us an opening statement.
I've been involved in a representative side of the industry for quite some time, and as a former dual delegate for the National Road Freighters Association as well as policy advisor prior to getting involved with the RSRT. I was actually sent as a delegate to the RSRT to side with other opponents to it, to stop it. After the first conference, I decided that why would someone not want this? This industry is in desperate need of assistance and better conditions and structure. Anyway, what some of the problems are, I'll move along pretty quickly as to what some of the points I need to get to here.
You're going to have as much time as you need. We've got half hour, then we get thrown out the room. But if it goes a little bit longer, Graeme, let's take the time to get out what you need.
At the moment, there's no incentive for anyone to get involved in the industry, none whatsoever. You've got enforcement breathing down your neck. You've got requirements. You've got to keep up with, you've got the cost of keeping up with industry expectations like PBS mass management, which are prohibitive to small operators through time and cost. The permit costs and that for PBS are ridiculous. And if the government and all where this industry is going, where they want trucks to be more profitable, operators to be more profitable, and everyone expects everyone to cart more, right? It shouldn't be prohibitive from people, smaller people doing it, and it is. It needs to change. There's no protection from rising costs like fuel and insurance. Insurance is a big issue for me because smaller operators like us probably have what's classified nearly as impeccable histories insurance-wise. Yet, we've got to pay the cost of all the unprofessional manners of the bigger companies which send the prices of insurance through the roof. There needs to be more regulation and more pressure put on insurance companies to reward operators. This is why the operators are just dropping off. Right?
Yep.
There's no protection for us, none whatsoever. The influx of unskilled labour coming in from overseas is a real worry. And there's some really bad stories floating about how that's coming in and how they're actually getting on the road. I think we're all aware of that. Now, as far as I've got real issues with associations and representative bodies of this industry because they're not actually doing a lot for the industry, the participants like me. You've got the likes of industry representatives that are taking membership money, and they're not using. This is one thing, right? I was at Rouse Street, Port Melbourne in 2004 when the Small Business Commission was struck. Right, that's the booklet from back then.
Okay.
That's Victorian legislation. It's mandated. That's sort of printed off this morning. That's the current 84-page document. Right? There's mandated.
What's that?
That's the Forestry Contractors, or Owner Drivers and Forestry Contractors Act in Victoria.
Yep.
It's been legislation for 15 years. Right? The question I've got is, it's got protections in there. It's got payment terms in there. I think 30 days from memory.
Okay.
Right? Now, why are we all arguing, even in this state alone, let's say this state alone now, why are we all arguing about payment terms when it's legislated? Why isn't all these associations that people are paying good membership money to are not using that for their members?
Can I just ask, because I've got a bit of that today, just so I don't lose it, isn't that only if they're procured on government contract? Oh, no, that was the tippers. No, sorry, you're right. Okay, this is all owner drivers or small businesses?
It's for, yeah, that's right.
Right,
owner drivers, it's called the Owner Drivers and Forestry Contractors Act 2005.
Yep.
Which is exactly that.
Okay.
And it's been amended since. And this is the amended 1st of May 2020.
And that has the ability to enforce minimum rates, does it?
It's got provisions in there.
Okay, right.
It's not as strong as the RSRT was.
Yep.
But it's something, and
Okay.
it's not being used. But there's probably a reason for it's not being used, because in positions like myself and Daniel Rowe, I know Daniel pretty well. He's a small family business. What happens is that generally they're captive to where you're working, and if you go stirring the possum, right, you don't get work. You get squeezed out, and then it's a revolving door. We all work in a revolving door.
Yep.
Right? There's always someone there to take your place.
Absolutely. Yep.
Well, this is the mentality that if you stir the possum, you're gone. As far as I'm concerned, where associations are concerned, where they're taking membership monies, and you've got loading agents, freight brokers and freight forwarders alike, right, who are a real issue in our industry, right?
Yep.
This inquiry should determine a charter.
Tell me a bit more about it, because this is the first time officially, I think, some witness has mentioned about the freight forwarders, or loading agents. I know I've done a throwaway line and comparing them to certain other things. Tell us a bit more about that, Graeme.
I don't think there's any question they're part of the chain.
Oh, no. They've managed to make themselves part of the industry, yeah.
They get a standard fee, I think, Daniel, what, $30 a load? 50?
It depends who you're working for.
Yeah, 50.
Some might be 30, some might be 50.
$50 a hit, and they get it whether you're happy or not. You got to take it. Well, you don't have to take it, but that's what happens.
If you want that load, yep.
Yeah. So I believe that part of mopping up this industry is to mop up those bodies.
And how would you envisage you'd mop them up? You said a chart.
A charter, yeah. Yep. A set of guidelines.
Enforceable by law?
Enforceable by law, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It doesn't matter whether you're talking this Small Business Commission Act, whether you're talking RSRT, whether you're talking the other one that was in Victoria in the late 90s. I forget what it was now. But the problem with any of it, no matter what you bring in, it's pointless unless it's enforceable.
Absolutely. Right.
It has to be enforceable, and whoever is likely to breach that needs to know that there is someone there that's going to come down on them hard, regardless.
Yep.
That's the problem. Well, that's one of the problems.
But can I just say on that, Graeme, while I'm going that, this is one of my low-hanging fruit ones. This is not going to cost the nation millions and billions and dollars, and we don't need a regulatory impact statement. So what you're saying, quite frankly, is there's a set of rules, and if you don't enforce them, you get whacked around the head, we take money off you and then chuck a set of handcuffs on you or something. I'm making that up as I go.
Well,
but it's not a huge impost donation.
As far as I'm concerned, one of the penalties for, a penalty for a participant in this industry, which is one of those, right?
Right.
If it's a business, in the case of a loading agent or whatever, if they breach, you take their GST certificate away from them for a month. They can't operate a business without a GST system. Right, there needs to be penalties where
I agree.
You're accountable and you know what the penalty is. That's what we'll know what being accountable is.
Yep.
Another one of the reasons why we're not getting any people coming in is because I would advise them not to on basis of what I'm about to tell you.
Well, I think that's important because I know, because I've said the same. Once we go through all the bogies in the industry, who wants to come into it? That's the sad part. You do it, Graeme. Yep.
I'm second generation. My son, who is now 10 years in, probably nearly as a participant as well, and 6 years as an independent contractor, he's third generation. I regard my generation as the last generation that's going to bring the next generation in. It's non-existent from here. It's not happening. Now, anyone that talks to me about joining the job, one of the things that I would say to them is the reason why not to do it is the work diary.
Okay, let's go down there and let's have a chat about that.
The emphasis on the penalties, emphasis and penalties, an added reason why interest in revolving generations are not coming into the industry, because people like myself are advising them against involvement. The penalties actually make you feel like a criminal.
Yep.
And I'm fully confident that data would prove a high enough a percentage of industry participants are doing the right thing, and actual decriminalising logbook penalties and the implications of them would be verified by the data that enough people are doing the right thing.
So, Graeme, I take that, if I got this wrong, correct me. If someone's actually breaking the law, deal with them, for crying out loud. Deal with them. There's no worries. If they want to drive 24 hours a day, you can't. But you're saying, like, stupid little fines. They're not stupid little fines, stupid little mistakes.
They're mistakes.
Coppers going back looking for mistakes. Just the police we're talking about?
Yeah, police and any enforcement.
Any enforcement.
Yep.
Going back through the work diary, trying to find something a little mistake, and reiterate a $684 fine. And if a driver is unlucky enough to get two of them a week, well, the pay's gone. This is what's happening.
I've successfully addressed a couple of fines for young blokes at home through the police force, and that's success. Because I picked out that where the police have fined them, sent in the copies of the pages with an explanation, and they've had to revoke the fine.
Right, okay.
Right. In some cases, I'm not saying all, but in some cases, fines are issued because they know that a driver's not going to take a day off work and travel to pay a fine.
Just pay it.
It's just paid.
So
it's the emotional side of
course.
Yeah.
Would an electronic, I'm asking you, would electronic diaries address a lot of these minor issues that lead to stupid fines?
Probably would, yeah.
Okay.
Probably would. But you've also got, you shouldn't be made like a criminal for human error. Right? And let's not forget that I know enough illiterate people out there that are truck drivers that are fantastic operators. You'd put them in your truck tomorrow, right? But they can't do this,
Yeah, or they
they
don't
can't
spell right,
understand
yeah.
that. Right? So there has to be an allowance, and that's why, as far as I'm concerned, a certain part of this needs to be decriminalised, because that's where it is.
Well, I asked this, Graeme, and I ask every truck driver this, and I know the answer. And I've posed it to a couple of enforcement agencies. Tell me how pinging a truck driver for $680 odd bucks for a spelling mistake contributes to improving road safety.
It doesn't.
That's right.
It doesn't. And not only that, drivers and owner drivers alike, and participants in the industry, small fleets like Daniel and myself, people alike, when things like that happen, and in the case of operating businesses as well, all we are is money jugglers.
Yep.
You take $600 away from a wife that's at home that doesn't see her husband for 2 weeks.
Yep.
What's she going to do? She's going to juggle money. It's wrong.
Well, not only juggle it, you've got to find it.
Well, you got to find it. Yeah, someone's got to miss out, and we know who misses out. It's the kids. This is some real life experiences. Here's a complaint with the NHVR and the confidential reporting line. I've got, I reckon, maybe 100, 150 pages of emails. I started this in April 2019 with the local enforcement agency prior to being taken over by the NHVR.
Okay.
As a result of being captive to a situation and the emotional side of it, when I found out that the NHVR were going to go in, they were going to go to all parties, and then I was told that it would probably end up back in my lap.
I'm sorry, penalties? Or what are we talking about here, Graeme?
Well, it would be talking about ramifications in case there was something,
Oh, okay.
something in the information
Oh, right.
where I'd erred, it would all come back to bite me.
Sure. Okay.
Right? The problem with all this stuff is that we've got bodies set up to help us, but at the end of the day, they're still picking on the little bloke. They're not fixing the situation.
And that is because it's why? Why does that happen,
Well,
in your opinion?
I don't believe that the supply chain and the big boys in the industry are likely to suffer the fate that they probably deserve.
So I can't put words in your mouth, Graeme. So it's a case of there's something unfair going on that could lead to.
It's too hard. It's too hard to get justice.
Yep. Yeah,
through the bodies, because they come back and they make you the bad person.
So no one's holding the top of the supply chain accountable.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now, Steve Corcoran, who I admire greatly for his input at the RSRT and for raising the issue with the amount of truck drivers that die.
Yes,
in this
a magnificent job.
Right. I downloaded some data this morning. I'm not sure if it's 100% current, but you're probably going to tell me if it is or not, roughly. My search indicates to me that on average a truck driver dies each week in Australia.
Yep, that's very close. Yep.
50 a week.
Yep.
Now,
50 a year.
yeah. Now, if this was happening in any other industry,
Oh, there'd be a Royal Commission.
we'd stop.
Yep, that's right.
If John Setka was sitting here beside me representing his industry, no one would pick up a hammer tomorrow.
Yep, that's right.
That's appalling. Absolutely appalling. We've got people in this industry getting killed every day, and with disregard. As far as I'm concerned, any government that leaves that unaddressed is nothing less than unaccountable.
Well, this is the issue. It's a well-known fact. I'm sick of hearing it. It's so true that we're told all the time transport is the deadliest occupation in Australia. And then I say, well, what are you doing about it? What's the government's doing about it? Don't care. As you said, if we had 50 children who died from a mysterious mistake, or imagine 50 deaths in a mine. I mean, the nation would be tipped upside down. There'd be investigations, dollars going left, right and centre, experts coming in out of the woodwork. But for truckies, it's a part of doing business. Get over it and move on.
Truck driver shortages, which is no secret, again. More obviously for some of the reasons I've already stated, but I've noted here I checked on the web this morning, there's an article where the Victorian government have allocated $4 million to train 800 drivers and get 800 drivers into the industry.
This is into HR, I believe. Is that right? Yep.
And yet this article here from Tallytrack, which is Navman, identify that it'll take at least 5,000 additional drivers to combat the state's shortfall. Now, this industry hasn't got a hope in hell of getting enough drivers to meet the shortfall,
Right.
nor meet the freight task.
That's exactly right, yep.
I believe the average age of a truck driver in Australia is somewhere between 53 and 59.
We were told 57 was the latest.
Yeah,
statistics.
so there's I couldn't find any current data, bar about 2016, which was about
I think it was 53 back
53,
then.
I think. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that's right. But obviously, for the reasons of the work diary, the impact of not enough restraint from timetables, timeframes, all that stuff, the impact of the job that you've got to do, it's never going to change unless there's some changes there.
Graeme, I'll go a step further and say anything can change if the political will is there. The sad part is the political will isn't there. That's the sad part. It's what we've experienced so far.
Yeah.
And I hope that this report changes things right around.
Me too, mate. Here, I've got some run sheets, some personal run sheets of daily schedules at a rather large logistics centre in Melbourne, who's tied to a major supermarket chain. And a major food supplier in the supply chain. On a daily basis, I was required to submit, without question, our schedule times.
Right. This
We're
was
required
for fatigue and payment, or just payment, or
No,
just
for the purpose of conference calls. To discuss compliance and what do you call them? KPIs, daily KPIs.
Yep.
On probably reckon about 25% of instances through the week, there was delays, hold-ups.
This is why you were trying to get loaded or get out?
No, trying to get unloaded.
Get unloaded? Okay.
Get unloaded and then reloaded.
Yep.
As a result of, and we were required to send messages when we were delayed, which was documented. All this stuff, all these requirements and all this data was recorded for the basis of a round-the-table conference call to make sure everything was kosher.
Yep.
And nothing ever got done. Hundreds and hundreds of SMSs, nothing ever got done. which is another problem why you're not getting people wanting to do the job. Which is another reason why viability and being able to sustain your position in the industry remains, or it ends up being a harder task.
That's coming through loud and clear. And I think I'm good at stealing other people's lines, but you were right. You know,
Sorry?
I said I'm good at stealing other people's lines, and yours is one of them they're going to adopt now. That we are the last generation of bringing in the next generation.
It's not happening. It's just about over.
Yep.
Here I've got some documents which are regarded to fuel levies.
Okay.
Right? Fuel levies have been in since around about 2003, 2004, roughly around there. Fuel at that point was always, and it had been for that time, around 88 cents a litre, never changed. From that point in 2003, fuel went up. It's never got back to where it was. That's where fuel levies were struck. Fuel levies aren't regulated.
So it's just voluntary?
Yeah, it's an arrangement between transport and the supplier.
But not everyone has that. Are you saying here in this state they do?
I think it's relatively common
Okay.
in the industry, from the information I've got. There are certain companies which are public companies which are on the web. They're public knowledge. These fuel levies are struck with the client on the basis of the prime rate, right? Yet are paid to the subcontractor at the subcontract rate. And the percentage that's paid to the contractor, right?
Yeah.
I believe, without question, is at a reduced percentage. So basically we've got
Someone making money.
we've got extortion and we've got profiteering at the hands of a subcontractor.
Yep.
Right. Now, if, for instance, that some of this money was made available to where it rightfully should be, perhaps we wouldn't be talking about a lot of this stuff.
I've got a funny feeling, Graeme, that we'd still be talking about it. I still think we'd be talking about people getting ripped off and squeezed.
Through what I've worked in the job I'm working the last 4 years, we have had to incur a negative fuel levy.
A negative fuel levy.
A negative fuel levy.
Yes, that was mentioned earlier today too.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yep.
Right. And part of that, the reason for that is what's called the rise and fall system between a cartage contractor and the supply chain.
Yeah.
Now, also, where that document is, I've got another document here somewhere. There it is there, which is relative to the fuel levy. Right, the formula for the fuel levy included in the formula, which the supply chain dictate, the diesel fuel credits is used to reduce the rate. Now, the diesel fuel credits is for the end user.
Yep.
Me.
Yep.
And Daniel. So, we've got money being extorted from us through formulas by the biggies. And like I said, if we had some of this money, some of these things we wouldn't need to be talking about.
Some of these, yep.
Some of these things.
Yep.
So, as far as I'm concerned, this inquiry, this is a matter for some of the bodies that are government bodies that are now in our system that need to look at. In some cases where you've got, there's a massive amount of money being withheld. One of these companies, which is off the web, right,
Yep.
I've never got a bigger fuel levy for the work that I've been doing at, I reckon, probably 5-6% tops.
Yeah.
Daniel, that right? Yep. 22%.
So just explain that to me. Explain a bit more. So when you said 5%, you mean a 5% increase in your fuel levy?
What it is, it's a 5% increase on your subcontract amount.
On the whole rate?
On the whole rate.
Oh, okay. Not just the fuel usage part of your rate?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's the whole rate. But by that same token, on this rise and fall thing, right, which, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't even exist, how can you have a negative fuel levy?
I don't know. Well, I know how they apply it, but yeah, I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Can I just say something, Graeme? But may I just say this? And I remember negotiating fuel levies in the 90s for owner drivers, but it's fairy floss. It's a bit of fairy floss, because if you don't get the rate right to start with, it's just that skew whiff and here's some crumbs. But by crikey, as soon as it comes down, we want those crumbs back and some.
Yeah. And that's been a process which has been mentioned to me before on occasions, whereby whom I've been talking to would rather not have to deal with a fuel levy, but just increase the rate.
Yeah.
It just complicates things.
Sure.
But in a lot of cases which I've got paperwork from other people, from my own experience, that it's a revenue raising system for the bigger people in the industry.
I have heard this. Before. Yep. So what, I cut you off, what was the 22%? What was that?
That was a fuel levy from a major transport company in Victoria.
Charging their clients?
Yes.
Oh, right. Passing on 5% to you guys.
22. Now, that same company, that company, right?
Yeah.
On the web, is stated as the same client as a company I've been working for, and I've never received any bigger fuel levy than about 5 or 6%.
Got you.
The same supply chain.
Right. Yep. And you can't take that anywhere because there's no one that polices. It's not mandatory. It can be some warm, fuzzy words at times.
There's no recourse.
Yep.
I've got a good friend who got involved with a bloke called Tim Squires, and I think you're well known.
We know Tim
is
very
well
well.
known to you guys. We went through a very personal experience when a certain company went bust to the tune of $27 million. Right? I've got a real issue with some of the bodies that are set up to help us, and when you get down to the crunch and you go to the trouble of providing them with information which is unquestionable, and they just back away from it. Now, ASIC is one of those bodies. The company in question that went down with $27 million, we provided ASIC with unquestionable proof and evidence as to the reasons why and when that all happened. ASIC stayed on their website phoenixing. We illustrated that to them and proved that to them, and yet nothing got done. There's no protection for owner drivers and small businesses in regard to companies that want to fly under segregated company banners and then walk away from debt overnight.
That's right.
real problem in the industry too.
Look, it certainly is, Graeme, and I'll leave it on this too because I was so critical. I mean, I give credit where credit's due, and I remember sitting in the Senate, might have been the year before last, when the government introduced a bill that addressed phoenixing if they were on government-funded jobs or something like that, but only in the construction industry. And I raised the question in the Senate, why only construction? Who was the brainiac to think that we'll only do construction? Transport's not even on the radar. But if the milk and the butter and the bread wasn't on the shelves and the fruit and veggies or the fuel at the fuel stations, and oh God, wouldn't they start screaming then?
You know, at this point, I'd like to be on record when I say that I'm in my fifth decade in the industry. I started in the 80s, the early 80s, and I've just walked away from a job that was returning very high six figures, very high. I was in it with my son, and because of the BS attached to it, we walked away from it. My truck's sitting at home, has been sitting at home for 7 weeks.
Parked up.
Parked up, and it's cost me $7,000 a month. And
It's a big decision then. That's a huge decision.
I can get a job tomorrow. I can go and work tomorrow for a numerous amount of people.
Yeah.
But I know what I'm going to be working for, and I might as well go broke sitting at home.
Yep.
That's the reality. Daniel will verify that.
Yep.
And the money's there. The money's there. There's no enforceable structure to make sure that the remaining small businesses and owner-drivers in this industry remain.
So, Graeme, can I wind up on this one, because you opened with in your opening statement about the intent of the RSRT and then unfortunately the order.
Yep.
You know, so what did we do wrong, and what could we do better if we had another crack at it? What would we have to do?
The biggest problem, I don't believe there was enough wrong with the RSRT to end up where it was. The biggest problem we had was that no one in our positions, apart from a select few that decided to just go down a path, have got the time to put into these types of things.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Like I said before, you're juggling money anyway, every day of the week. So you haven't got the time to put into stuff like this. But so long as people have got confidence in a structure and something that's clearly enforceable and easy to interpret. Right? The main part of the RSRT was that not enough people were able to interpret it. And then they foolishly believed what they were told.
Yep.
So it has to be transparent, it has to be easy to interpret, and it has to be enforceable.
Yep.
Without question. Enforceable without question.
We know voluntary doesn't work in this industry.
No, like this, we've got things like the Forestry Contractors Act here, which I stated, but that's something you've got to do yourself. And not, like I said, people won't do it either. There has to be something put into place, like the RSRT, which has got guidelines. But not only that, since the RSRT, everyone's talking about better rates, better conditions, all that sort of stuff. I think there was a chap spoke today about cost recovery. That's a term which is should be at the top of the tree, plus a return. Then
Plus a profit.
Plus a profit, yeah, that's right. But none of these representative bodies that are taking money from members have put anything forward as a cost model. We need a cost model.
No, I understand that.
No? And you've got something else which I totally disagree with, is as far as drivers go, the impact and the pressure on you when you're driving a B-double as opposed to a single truck, right, single trailer. I think the extra rate for a B-double is about 3 to 5 cents a kilometre, roughly. It's not a lot. Those vehicles are carrying 50% more.
Yep.
With, I think, from my memory, about a 20% increase in fuel. So why is there not enough money there?
If we could work that out, we'd be able to sort out the road trains, and yeah, that's right. So, can I just? Sorry, Graeme, but
You're right.
I want to say this too to a lot of the knockers that may be listening. And still whinging about the same problems. New South Wales has a legislative enforcement regime, Chapter 6, and I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's there. And I think it's for about 150 kilometre circuit.
That's, what do they call that?
It's something, yeah, it's the owner-driver, yeah, you know what
It's
it means.
been around for years.
Been around for years. And you know what, Graeme? They can't get paid any less than what that recommend, and it's enforceable. And last time I looked, there's still a lot of trucks running around Sydney that have got owner-drivers' names on the side of the door. So it doesn't put them out of business, has it?
No,
That's right.
that's right.
Graeme, can I just say on terms of timing, mate, is there anything else that you'd like to throw in before that we do have to bid farewell to each
Probably
other?
other things that I've forgotten.
If there's anything else you want to add to us, please contact the Secretariat and put in there. But I just want to take this opportunity. Graeme, thank you for reaching out. Thanks for your work that you did, and I know how hard you did work in those days, mate, like yourself and Steve Corcoran and co. And you never get any thanks for it. You don't get any thanks for it. But the whole idea, and I think we can safely say at the end of the day, we all share the same thing. We all want to go to work safely. We all want to get home safely. We want to watch our kids grow and prosper. And all we want to do is be paid properly and on time with a little bit of respect shown too.
One thing I meant to say, Glenn, when I was saying it before, I meant to go on record, is that every wife has had to stay home and see their partners and husbands and whatnot go away, they deserve a pat on the back.
Absolutely.
Because all those women and partners have had to raise families and do all that on their own. And I'm lucky in that respect too.
And we all are, mate. We all know about the missed birthday parties and weddings and christenings, and when our kids took their first steps and they got their first teeth. Yeah, a lot of it, we all share that, and that story doesn't get told outside of our own circles. I concur with you, Graeme. So, mate, thank you so much for coming today. And if we do need to follow anything up, we know where to find you, mate. Okay?
Good day.
Thanks
for your time.
Thanks very much, Graeme. Now, that concludes today's hearing. So, to Paula and Josh, thanks very much. Kyle, you're a champion, mate, there in broadcasting, and Hansard. The committee now stands adjourned. Thank you.